We had a great crash of the late 2000s that made the real estate world kind of, is this really what I need to be doing? I kind of took a leap of faith that I think I could do this.
Well, you're doing something right. Welcome to the Elite 25 podcast, where we sit down with the verified top 1% of Austin real estate agents to hear about the housing market, how they became the best agents in Austin, their challenges, and their success stories. If you're interested in luxury real estate and insights from the hottest market in America, this is the show for you. All right. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Greg.
Thank you for having me.
If you would, state your name and your company and how long you've been in real estate.
Sure. My name is Greg Walling. I'm with Moreland Properties, and I've been in the real estate business since 2004.
Always at Moreland?
No, I started actually as a land salesman at Spanish Oaks. So when Spanish Oaks started in 2001, I was a golf professional there, and that transitioned into real estate in 2004. So I worked for a developer from 2004 to 2011, and then joined Moreland in 2012.
So how does that happen? How do you go from being a golfer to being a luxury real estate agent?
Totally.
Tell us that story.
Growing up, I played golf all through high school and a little bit in college, but I worked at Barton Creek Country Club.
So you're from Austin?
From Austin, went to Westlake High School, Hill Country Middle School, Westlake High School, and then UT. But yeah, worked at Barton Creek all through through high school and into college. Thought I was going to be a club manager of a resort. That kind of seemed to be the path I was on at age 22. General manager at the time, Brent Buckman, who was kind of Mr. Golf in the state of Texas, got this amazing opportunity to build Spanish Oaks and start it from scratch. And so he hired me as a membership sales coordinator and a golf pro, and we were going to go build this membership. And so through countless of tours, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I went around the property in a four-wheeler. From 2004 to 2001 to 2004, I spent a lot of time on site, got to know all the members. And so as the real estate opportunities kind of presented themselves, they picked me as one of the, a perfect membership liaison into real estate. So kind of that's where I dabbled into it in 2004. Developers changed, or the development sales team kind of was built, and I was a part of it from 2005 to 2011. So a great way to kind of get my feet wet. We sold a lot of land in the beginning and then started getting into the resale business and homes and new construction and that kind of stuff.
So once you moved into the residential sales and played a little bit less golf, I'm assuming, was there a time in your career where you transitioned from, or what was the time in your career when you transitioned from, I think I'm going to try to sell real estate, to, I might be pretty good at this. This might be a deal that I'm pretty good at.
Yeah. So we had the great crash of the late 2000s that made the real estate world kind of, is this really what I need to be doing? But we kind of got through that, and all of a sudden, kind of 2011, things started moving again. And I had so many great relationships. I mean, I think that's the key, is through all of my golf, whether it be through Barton Creek or at Spanish Oaks, I just had tons of relationships with people that I've continued to maintain contact with, who trusted me and saw the work that I did. And so through that, I kind of took a leap of faith that I think I could do this, joined Moreland Properties in January of 2012, and it really took off. A lot of those relationships turned into listings or turned into referrals and buyers. And by the end of 2012, 2013, I felt pretty confident this is something, a path here. And I made the Elite 25 maybe in 2014, I think. And I think that was like oh wow, okay, this is real. We can make this thing work. So anyway, it's kind of an interesting way to get to it, but I have been doing it ever since.
Well, you're doing something right. So as a local, that's certainly a unique offering point about Greg Walling. But if you had to tell me two or three things that you feel like differentiate you from sort of your non-Elite 25 agents, or those who haven't seen as much success as you, what would you say sort of identifies you?
Well, I think growing up in the service industry was huge, right? So working at Barton Creek, you got to be around these very affluent individuals, whether there be local businessmen or family offices or celebrity types or athletes, whatever it is. And you kind of got to really focus in on them and how to make their experience that day great, and leaving those kind of lasting memories of, there's a lot of other people around, but you're going to make a difference to that person that day. And so not knowing that was what I was doing at the time, I feel like that's gotten me to where I am, where, I really focus in on them, try to make their experience great, whether I'm selling a house, completing this transaction, listing the house, whatever it is, it's really that customer service base. And so I think that's like a big, I know we all can say that, but I really hone in on that personal relationship and making sure that they're the number one. And then ultimately, they continue to be the number one. So like the referral business, it just continues to come back to me. But I think a lot of it started from my customer service days of really just getting to know these people. And a lot of them are friends and family and clients and all of that. But it all stemmed back from kind of those early days as a range boy, at Barton Creek.
Yeah. That's
pretty
cool.
Crazy.
So we ask all of our members this. I think I already know the answer to the question because you just talked so much about golf. So I'm going to ask you that if you didn't play professional golf for a living and you didn't sell luxury real estate for a living,
right?
What other fun job would you think that you might like or would be good at or might be a fit for you? This can be as off the wall or as
totally
straight up the middle as you want.
I know like in somewhere, I think it was in middle school, I had a drafting board and I always thought I would be an architect, and I actually went down when I went to UT, I applied to the architecture school. I didn't draft in high school, but that just seemed interesting to me. So now thinking back that I'm in the business of it, I always thought that would have been a really fun job. But then it also, if you look at pages and pages of notes in college or even in high school, you'd probably see some sort of golf course design on said page. So maybe one of those two would have been kind of fun.
If not a pro golfer.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Right. All right. Another kind of universal question that we like to ask because it seems pretty straightforward, but if you had $20 million that you had to spend on residential real estate in Austin, Texas, where would you spend it and why?
20 million. Okay. Is that one house or multiple houses?
However you want to spend it. You got 20 million.
Growing up in Westlake, I feel like you got to have a home in Westlake, great schools, central location. So I think I got to start there. And then again, going back to the golf thing, we've got some really good golf communities around Austin. Spanish Oaks was a home. The Travis Club, I think, is going to be something really special out in Lake Travis. And even out into like the Horseshoe Bay area with Escondido and some of the new clubs that are being built out there. So I'd probably dabble with something in Westlake. I'd love to get on Lake Austin, but I don't know if I could do that even at $20 million. So probably a combination of kind of a golf community type with a home base, kind of where I am right now.
Having been a local or being currently a local, you've probably seen a lot of growth in Austin. You've probably seen those properties back in the day on Lake Austin that were 600,000 or 700,000, and those have been gone for many years. But I'm curious, from your perspective, what would you say is the area of Austin that has changed the most since when you were a kid running around Westlake?
Well, I remember when there was like one stop light on 360 going to the Arboretum. So I think that's kind of crazy to think about. But Westlake is changed a lot. Even where we are today, like I lived in a home just down the street here off of Westlake Drive that I used to hit golf balls across the street into where now there is a development. So, all of Austin has changed. My dad was born and raised here, so I've taken him around. Just, took him into East Austin. This was a couple of years ago, and he was floored. He's like, I would have never come over here back however many years ago. So, it's just changed so much, but it's still got a feel to it that it's still Austin. I think going downtown, I don't do that near as much as we did back in the day, but like knowing it's there and it can only be a few minutes away, it's hard to get into, but it's still a place you want to go. But yeah, I think it's all changed, but it doesn't feel like a big major shift to me. It still feels like Austin in a lot of ways.
Oddly enough, Anna Lee was in the earlier episode today. She's also a second generation Austinite, which I think the odds of that happening amongst this group are very, very rare. Right. You just don't see that many locals anymore.
Yeah.
Tell me about how you go about building trust with these luxury clientele who have to be chased by every real estate agent when they're coming to town. How do you differentiate yourself and how do you build their trust?
I think it goes back to like the service oriented piece, right? I think replying and answering, taking their calls, whether it be at 5 a.m. or, 12 a.m., the phone doesn't stop. And if I don't answer, somebody else will. And so I think, I'm sure my family gets a little frustrated at times as I take those phone calls off hours. But I think being available, at some point you can set some boundaries there. But like initially, I think you kind of have to read and react pretty fast to build their trust. I always have liked to bring, whether it be breakfast tacos on our first tour or leave them with some sort of like little Austin trinket, something that just shows like, A, I care, right, and B, I'm real. And it shows kind of my, it's not a fluff thing, right? People, they want to feel like you're not just a fake, right? And so I think trying to build that trust real quickly, but by doing some little odds and end things that may leave a little lasting memory. Maybe I'm doing something a little different than maybe somebody else. But yeah, try to build trust immediately because, again, that's the key, because there are a lot of options and a lot of great options for people. But try to get their attention early and don't let go, and then I think you start to build rapport with the different family members. Sometimes it's the husband, sometimes it's the wife, sometimes it's the kids, and really trying to build a relationship real fast to where they feel the most comfortable with you. And then, from there, it just kind of evolves.
So as a member of Elite 25, that group is basically the top 1% of the top 1%. It's not just the top 1%. It's really digging into the best of the very best in Austin. And to get there, you had to have some good coaches. You had to have some good mentors. You probably looked up to some people in real estate. And I'm curious more about not necessarily who specific the individuals were, but what were those things that you saw in yourself and that you've tried to work on over the years as you've climbed the ranks to be at the very top?
Sure. Well, I think it's surrounding yourself with good people, right? We've been fortunate enough to be a part of Moreland Properties for a long time, and we've got some great teammates, colleagues over there, even though we're all kind of fighting for the same business. We got great camaraderie amongst our agents that, they get new listings or they have buyers for your listings. So I think it starts there. Emily Moreland is just as good as they get. You can bounce any ideas off of her. She's the biggest cheerleader that we have, so that'd be probably like our immediate group. And then kind of going back into the high school and college days of like the different mentors that I kept coming across. Like I maintained great relationships with, whether they at that time members or friends, or Brent Buckman, who was our general manager at the time of both places, Sally Allen, who was our membership director. Like all these people brought something to the table. Got Baker Montgomery is another great, he's in the commercial world, but he's just took me under his wing as like a son. And so like, you just learn a little bit from each one of them. They all have strengths, but a lot of it was personality. They can't be afraid to talk to someone. You can't be able to pick up the phone and call them. And I think sometimes people have a hard time with that. Everybody gets on that text and sits behind an email. And I think being able to communicate is just one of the biggest, I think one of my best strengths, but like being able to like have a tough conversation, have a great conversation. And I think that's an important piece to continue to maintain versus kind of hiding behind, emails and texts. I think it's just hard for some people to have those conversations. And I think that's one thing that I've really prided myself on and want to continue to do. But all of those great mentors that I've had have kind of shown me like, hey, this is a people business. This isn't just so anyway.
Along the lines of real estate can be a demanding business. Have you ever had a request or something that one of your buyers or sellers asked you that really caught you off guard or surprised you?
Well, it's funny. I had one just recently. I got a call. I'd had a busy day. I had a couple closings, and long story short, I get this text at like 3 p.m, and he basically said a desk is being delivered to this house, which we don't have a contract on a house. We don't have a lease agreement signed on a house, and it just showed up. And my client was the buyer client, and now I've got to go figure out what to do with. They just literally dropped it in the driveway. The owners are calling, what's this? What's going on? And, it's a Friday night now, and I've had to go find a friend to go pick up a desk that sits. It was actually from a movie set that was sitting in someone's driveway that we had to go find a home for. And that's, again, Friday night, but again, all worked out. But yeah, we get some of the strangest ones. That was probably the most recent. But
so it was delivered to the wrong house, or whose desk was it?
Well, we were trying to negotiate a deal with a house, and he just sent it to that house, thinking we were gonna
get it done.
And so now I've got to you kind of lost any leverage at that point, right?
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, we get random calls, random texts, do this, do that. That being the most recent, but yeah, I mean, you just never know. I always say, like, I wake up in the morning, I'm like, what am I going to do today? I have a plan, but that plan may get altered by some phone call or text.
Well, sounds a lot like golf. Both are very stressful occupations, and you have a lot of ups and downs that you got to kind of remain balanced.
Totally.
How do you manage that, and what do you do for fun to kind of take your mind off of the stress of the ups and downs of the Austin real estate market?
Well, I've got a great family support system. 2 kids that are super active, and a beautiful wife that keeps us going. When work is over, I get home and we still have lots more things to do. But it's been fun to chase the kids. My son just finished baseball. We had an additional 3 weeks of baseball this summer, which was a great way to start the summer. My daughter is a big dancer. So, those 2 are really, and of course my wife, those 3 kind of keep us really busy. That's the fun part, while we do the job to help support those guys.
As an old Austinite, not by age, but by being here for a long time, if you have somebody coming into town that's never been to Austin, doesn't know anything about Austin, what's your favorite place to spend time and show them, and how do you go about doing it?
Typically starts with some sort of breakfast taco, right? So we've got a lot of great options, but always kind of start there. I love, of course, being a UT grad and a big fan, you got to throw that in the mix somewhere. So if it's a Saturday, taking them to a game, if it's a weekday and there's a basketball game, we go do that. And then even in the spring, whether men or women, and then in the spring, baseball. So a lot of my extracurricular activities outside of my kiddos are involved around UT. But, I love all the hot spots. I love South Congress. I think it's such a fun place to go, park the car, walk up and down, pick a restaurant, go to candy shop. Like, all of those things I think are super fun. I think a trip around Town Lake, again, I call it Town Lake. It's Lady Bird Lake hiking bike trail, whatever. But like, that's a great place on a good, beautiful spring day, fall day, like to see people roaming around down there. I can't complain with either one of those. And then I think all of our lakes are so fun, whether it be Lake Travis, Lake Austin, or even, Lake LBJ, which it's an hour away, but it's a pretty special place out there, and a lot cooking out kind of in the hill country. So, it'd probably be a mix of that. I'm sure I'm missing a few great restaurants along the way, but can't go wrong with really anything down.
Sure. As a second generation Austinite, now I just have to ask the question, who has the best breakfast tacos in Austin?
Well, right now, Texas Honey Ham is high on the list. I drive by it every day. I typically get an iced tea and a couple tacos, but the staff is incredible. I mean, they call you by name. They know your order. They do not just a great job for breakfast. I mean, my kids eat more pancakes from them than anybody, but they also do a great kind of holiday fare, right? Like, you can order ham, you can order the shells and cheese. Like, they do a really good job. But I think what I love about it the most is it just reminds me of my great days at Barton Creek, where we just had such a fun staff, and it was just a great place to be around. Every time you walk in there, there's someone talking about, like, you see someone, they're calling you. I mean, it's got a really good energy and vibe, and it's a great way to start the day. Like, you get in there, you folks for coffee, you meet folks for tea, and like, it's a great place to get started. So,
well, it sounds like they might be your future competition if their hospitality game is that strong.
Yeah, it's really good.
You said that you went to Westlake High School and then you went directly to UT. Did you play golf at UT or?
Yeah, so I tried out a couple times, learned that I wasn't very good. They got a new golf coach in 1998, John Fields, who's the longest running coach at Texas right now. And he took on some walk-ons. Me and a couple friends actually made the team. We got a golf bag. That's about the highlight of our collegiate golf experience. But it was really fun to get to play that year with the greats, so to speak, or at least say we were a part of it. But yeah, UT is a big part of my life. After golf, I was a part of a club there called Silver Spurs, and we took care of Bevo and at the time the Cannon as well. But I was elected to be a handler of Bevo in the fall of '99. So I was fortunate enough to be one of the 4 gentlemen down on the field holding Bevo and taking him on the road trips. And it was an incredible experience. That it's one that I'll never forget. Some of my best buddies are still, from those days. And it was so fun. I mean, we literally would go out to the ranch, pick Bevo up, take him to Dallas for the Texas OU game, take him down to, at that time we played Nebraska in the Big 12 championship in San Antonio, which happened to be my graduation day. And so I didn't walk for graduation, but I was, on the field with Bevo flipping a hat up in the air. So it was pretty fun to have that experience for sure.
Anything scary happen with Bevo while you had him under your care?
We had a few incidences, that you held those reins a little tighter. But no, I mean, it's just great stories to tell. And I think part of the when we're visiting with new people into Austin, it adds to the story, which is really
big football fan as well.
Huge, yeah.
Do you have a favorite memory about that?
Well, I've been fortunate enough to know a lot of the staff and coaches over the years, from the early 90s to kind of the most recent group. And I think that helps a ton. One of my mentors, Baker Montgomery, was kind enough to kind of take me under his wings in 2000. And I got to really experience UT athletics with him, and he had great access. And so we got to do still do a lot of fun things, but you just get to know the people behind the game. And I think when you get to know them, then it feels a little realer, right? And so you're not just watching the boys, you understand what these coaches are going through, and you get to understand what the kids are going through. And so it's not just watching it on TV, you kind of have a more personal tie to it. And I think my heart rate goes up and down so much throughout the season. It's cooled off a little bit with kids, but a lot of my days were ruined and a lot of my days were great, depending upon how our teams did, for sure.
I'm the same way. I'm looking forward to Arch next year.
Yeah, that's right.
Back to real estate. Austin is one of those markets that a lot of people say is different than the rest of the country. There's obviously been a huge popularity boost over the last few years. I'm curious about your thoughts on the current market. Are we in a bubble? Are things going okay in the luxury market? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think Austin's great, right? Like, we have so many different opportunities of business here, whether it be life sciences, the automobile business, state government, all the tech stuff. Like, we are covered. We got lots to do. And so I think we're going to be great. I think every market's going to rise and fall. And there may be a great opportunity to participate as a buyer, and it may not be the best as a seller right now, but so much depends on the house and when you bought the house and when you sold the house previously. And so, we just have a lot going for us, great weather, great town, friendly group. Prices have gotten a little expensive, but, not anything different than some of the big cities that are out there. And I think just the quality of life is so good. The school systems are great. Being outside, I think that's the biggest thing with my kids is we try to do as many things outside as we can. And so 9 months of the year, it's awesome. July, it kind of gets hot. August, it's real hot. And you can take your vacations then. But it's just, we got a lot going for it. And I think the bubble, if we call it a bubble, the COVID craze, I think has settled down. And I feel like now we're going to just kind of level off. So we may have seen a big up and then a down, and now we're kind of going to ride this thing out. And again, I think when interest rates change a little bit, we get some more relocations coming back to Austin, I think it just thrives once again. But I think there's a great opportunity for buyers to take advantage at this time, but that may change soon.
Sure.
So.
One last question here. How long have you been involved with Elite 25, and what do you get out of it? What do you like about it?
Well, I should know this, but I think I've done this now 10 years in a row. And I think I had an off year somewhere in the early days. Maybe it's a little bit longer, but I like the people. I think it's the collaboration, having some group texts where we can kind of get to know vendors and people that they like to use, and, new listings and pocket listings and whatever else. I think it's all of that. I think that getting to tour these beautiful homes, which is pretty, I'm pretty
having
blessed.
lunch here is nice.
Yeah. Pretty blessed to get to have that. But, I think it's also a feather in our cap a little bit. I think it helps us with listings. A lot of times I'm up against other colleagues of mine, but I wouldn't have had that opportunity if I wasn't a part of the Elite 25. So it gives me a foot in the door, so to speak. I feel like we know the luxury space pretty well, and I think that translates well to buyers and sellers. And so I think it just gives a client that you may not know a little more confidence that you know what you're doing, and have the right network to find them a home or sell their home or promote their home in the best light, for sure.
Great. Well, thank you, Greg. Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
If you want to hear more from Elite 25, be sure to subscribe to this show and find us on Instagram and TikTok. Tune in again next week for another interview with one of the top 1% real estate agents in the country.